Hello, everybody. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity. You know, we cover country here every chance we get, and boy, I like talking to the classic legacy artists as well as up and comers. And this one that I interviewed here, Buddy Jewell, is somewhere in between. You might remember that he was the first season winner of the TV show Nashville Star, kind of like a American Idol type of show, and he was the winner. And Clint Black was his go-to guy during that show, and Clint wound up producing his first record. Well, that was 20 years ago. Can you believe that? 20 years ago. And Buddy's still rocking it in the country world. And he's just re-released a new recording or a re-recording of his first hit, or one of his first hits, Sweet Southern Comfort. And I jumped at the chance to talk to him because I've loved Buddy's work, from day one, and just really liked how he comes across. And boy, he was no disappointment, no surprises there. Just a wonderful, golden-hearted guy. So we talked about this new album. We talked a bit about his career and things of that nature. And I think you're really going to love watching this conversation or listening to it if you're listening to it on the audio podcast. If you're not a Buddy Jewell fan, listen to it anyway, and you'll become one. I promise you that. So without any further ado, here is my first of what I hope are many more interviews with country great Buddy Jewell. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Hey, thanks for joining me. I appreciate this more than you'll ever know. This is
proud to be here, man.
Well, Buddy, thanks a million for joining me. It's a pleasure. I've been a fan of yours for a while, and talking about this new album. But before we do, I'm just wanted to ask you. I've been asking this of artists for the last year or so, and kind of catching up on is how is the post-pandemic world for you with regards to your career? Are you seeing a new normal? Are you back to the old normal? Are fans acting differently? Crowds being different? How's that all look to you?
In a way, it feels a little new. Obviously, taking a year off like that, really kind of takes the wind out of your sails for a little bit. Although I say this, praise God, man, he got me through it and unscathed, and we paid every bill and ate every meal, so we no complaints there. But I think that I think people now more than ever are hungry for live entertainment. They just seem to be more appreciative of it, and which is a good thing.
Yeah, very good. That's what I'm seeing from a fan level. Of course, I'm not an entertainer, so I see it only from the seats, but I know when I first started going back to live shows again and catching people, it was just, you could feel it in the air. People were just, it's like everybody coming out from the bomb shelters,
Yeah, no kidding.
And just feeling energized. And I think I'm glad to see that after, say, a couple years now, there's not a complacency about it yet. So
yeah, hopefully that'll last for a while longer. We'll see. I think people probably have a deeper appreciation for once it's been taken away, like that, and so they probably treasure a little more than they did before.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I know for me it did, and for me from a I guess quasi journalist standpoint, I don't like that word, but I'll go with it for this conversation. What I miss still are the meet and greets, to be able to catch people. A lot of people still aren't doing that. Some are. It just depends on the artist. But and I understand the caution, because we still get word every once in a while that somebody's down with COVID or something, and I would hate to be a carrier and not know it and make somebody like you sick from it, and then I'd feel terrible, and the fans would hate me. So
yeah, it's well, and I got this to say about all of that. I'm glad that people were cautious. It feels like we're back to normal, and we know how to deal with that stuff better now than before. So, it's honestly not anything that I'm concerned about.
Good deal. So this new album, I love what I've heard so far, and I guess my first question about it is, did Willie really give up weed?
Well, I got the idea for that, man. It was November 2019, so it was pre-pandemic, or at least before we admitted that it was here. And I was working out and I was reading a news article, and Willie had done an interview with some music magazine and said he had to quit smoking pot because of his lungs or whatever. And the more I thought about it, the funnier it got to be to me. Gosh, and I thought, wow, it's something you think would never happen. And I started thinking, what other things do you think will happen? And then it kind of led to the whole apocalyptic scenario that I've tried to paint in the song.
So we'll use that as a lead in. What tell me about this record overall. What's been different in putting this together for you besides, Willie giving up weed and the like? I love the sound. I love I see the names of the people you had helping you out and all that. Tell me about it.
Well, I had a lot of fun making the record. My Willie Gave Up Weed song is on my most recent record, Blue Bond Highway, which my buddy and bass player and good friend Mitchell Brown produced. And we had some great bluegrass pickers on it. It was just primarily a bluegrass album. That one is the one we're working on now with the new release of Sweet Southern Comfort with Clint Black and Bellamy Brothers and Marty Raven. We're still in the process of putting that together, like you're talking about. I'm trying to write for it. I've got a few things in the can. I've got some stuff recorded that we're going to hopefully get to put on as well. And kind of shooting for a release date of maybe midsummer next year. So it's still, that's all a work in progress, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah.
So Sweet Southern Comfort, tell fans the story behind that and how you got everybody together for that.
Well, I didn't realize this until earlier today in another interview. Today is literally the 20-year anniversary. 20 years ago today, we released Sweet Southern Comfort as a single, the original version. And it went on to be a big radio hit for me and still gets played all over the world. And so last year, about this time, we decided to do something special for the 20-year anniversary of me winning the TV show National Star, the first season. Help Her Out the Rain, the song I wrote about my daughter was a big hit for us coming out of that show. And then Sweet Southern Comfort was the follow-up. And we thought we should do something to kind of commemorate all of that and celebrate it. And Sweet Southern Comfort was a song that really, I felt, lent itself easily to having other voices on it with me. And since Clint Black was our mentor on the television show that year, and he also, whoever won, he was going to produce their album. So he wound up producing my album. We got to be good friends. And he was the first call I made because, like I said, it wouldn't have been a hit the first time around if Clint wasn't involved. And he was so cool about it and so humble and said, man, anything you need me to do, just let me know. I want to help you out with this. And so he's playing harmonica on the song. He's singing on the song. And, we even got a video that we put together here a few months ago. So we got Clint. He was the first call. Marty Raven is one of the most easily recognized voices of country music and one of the greatest country music singers that I personally have ever got to experience. And he's a wonderful guy on top of all that.
Yes, he is.
And my producer, Mitchell Brown, is good friends with some of the guys at Shenandoah. In fact, one of the guys, Donnie Allen, that plays banjo for him, played on my bluegrass record on Blue Line Highway.
Oh, wow.
So they got together and got in touch with Marty and said, he's interested if you want to call him. And so I got in touch with him. And he's an Alabama guy, so he loves that whole roll tide roll thing. So he was involved. And then the Bellamy's was really, I was most surprised that they agreed. And I did, because I literally only asked about 5 artists before those 3 came in and said they would do it. And I'd opened the show for Howard and David in August last year, and got to spend a little time with them after the show. I'd never been able to just kind of hang with them prior to that. And when we were looking for artists for this, Brandon Steen, that was kind of the whole brainchild behind this whole thing, said, well, what would you think about asking the Bellamy's? And I'm like, well, all I can do is say no. And so I sent a text to David and man, they were in right away. So I was just thrilled to death.
Wow.
You have all these legendary singers on there with me. And I didn't realize until after the fact that literally we're representing 4 decades of country music. The Bellamy's from the 70s, Marty and Shenandoah from the 80s, Clint from the 90s, and then me the 2000s. And so this is one of those kind of God things, I think, that they got us started on this. And we're going to try and keep that rolling, get this record made, and obviously Sweet Southern Comfort will be the first single off of it, and got some other great songs we're going to put up as well.
Of all those guys you've mentioned, the only one I've had the privilege of meeting and interviewing was Marty. And you described him just how I perceive it. You know him. I've just talked to him the one time, but wow, just golden. You can just sense it from his heart, just that he's just a truly golden human being. At the time, one of my friends was playing guitar with him, Austin Crum, and he's gone on to, I think Josh Turner now is who he's playing with. But anyway, got to see Shenandoah not long after that. And wow, what a great show. Still knocking it out of the park. So question for you about your career. 20 years ago, this new album comes out. You have these songs on there. You fresh off of winning the show, being named the winner. In that 20 years, what has been exactly like you thought it would be? And then what are the surprises you've experienced in the 20 years since your career launched?
Wow. That's a great question. There's things you can't anticipate. I think every artist goes through this. The first time you hear your song on the radio, on a major radio station, it's for me, it was a little bit overwhelming, actually comical too. Here in Nashville, I was home, and so they started playing it, and my phone would ring and say, "Hey, so and so's playing your song," and I'm like, "I know, I'm trying to listen. Let me hang up." So one day, one of the major stations here was going to play it. They said, "Hey, after this, coming up after this, Buddy Jewell." And I knew they were going to play it. So I turned my phone off, and I'm driving down this little 2-lane country road, and I get to hear "Help Pour Out the Rain" for the first time on the radio. And it was really just a moment that I had that I got to enjoy that because, I was 42 years old when I won that television show. I'd had that dream for 20 years prior to Nashville Star. And for that to finally come true and God let that happen in my life was just an outstanding. I can't describe it. So that's something I couldn't anticipate. Some of the things that I thought would be like they are, I knew that from being friends with Michael Peterson and some other artists that I've worked for here doing studio work for them, that it's not all the glamour that people think it is. They think we ride around on a bus and get off and sing for an hour and a half and then sign autographs and we're off work. That's the easy part. That's the fun part. All the hard stuff is behind the scenes and, getting up and at 3:00 in the morning, heading for the airport because you got a 6:00 flight and having to travel all day and get in just in time to, grab a nap at the hotel and a sandwich and, you're off, to the venue and things like that. People don't see. And I'm not complaining in any way, shape, or form, man. God's blessed me so much, Randy. He's been so good to me, and I'm just tickled to death to be where I am. This is where He wants me to be, or I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I just even them telling me it's going to be tough. There's no way you know until you experience it. But I knew going in, it was, the battle had just starts when you get that record deal. That's, everything starts then. And so it's been an incredible 20 years for me. It's gone by so fast. It really doesn't feel like it's been 20 years. And I'm thankful for that as well. I still feel young. I still feel like I'm that same guy 20 years ago that came off that television show.
Yeah. Except when our bodies start telling us, no, you're not, What's this?
From the knees down, they know how old I am. But from the knees
tell me about it.
Argue with it.
Yeah, that struggle is real. I just turned 64 last week, so I'm just ahead of you on some of this stuff. So,
yeah, well, happy birthday.
Well, thank you. But it's boy, talking about time flying. I hear you there. So when in doing this and getting all the friends together, now that people are hearing this song with Marty and the Bellamy guys and Clint on there, is your phone ringing saying, "Hey, I want I want in on one of these songs too for the rest of the album. You getting any of those kind of calls?
I actually have gotten a couple of those. I've run into an artist that I had asked about it who, they, for whatever reason, couldn't or didn't get back with me. And they said, "Man, I wish I wish I'd have known you were going to pull the trigger on that thing so quick. I'd like to have been on that with you." And I said, "Well, next time I call,
Answer.
and yeah, answer a little faster." But that's honestly, that's a big compliment to me that the song has been received so well, and that other artists are saying, "Man, I wish I could have been on that with you." So yeah, that's cool.
This question just popped in my mind. I didn't have it written down, but I'm going to ask it of you anyway. During the pandemic, we lost some greats. We lost Charlie Daniels and Johnny Prine and Mac Davis and others. Who are there? Is there anyone from that group of people that we've lost around that time, or maybe just before, that you've been working on this album? You thought, wow, I wish they were around, because I'd definitely reach out for them or to them for one of these songs. Anybody come to mind?
Joe Diffie's probably the very first one that comes to mind. Joe and I had a similar experience with Nashville. Joe was working at Gibson and singing demos, and they were trying to get him to quit at Gibson so he could sing demos for full time. He's like, "No, no," he's where he couldn't make pay the bills, and then they finally convinced him to quit and start singing demos, and then he gets his record deal, and so coming from that standpoint, we both were studio musicians for a long time. But man, what an incredible singer he was. I was only around him a few times, but he was always so cordial and welcoming to me. And he would have been somebody that I know I would have loved to have had.
Very cool. So you said you got some more songs in the process, in the works. What else is on your radar for the coming months? And I assume you're going to be hitting the road again here pretty soon. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we've been honestly since last year, the mid part of 21, we started getting really busy again. Last year was an incredible year for us, and this year has been too. I've spent a lot of time in Europe this year. I just got back from Ireland. We're headed for Spain here in a few days. I've got festivals in Spain, Germany, Austria. And so we're out on the road, making it happen and enjoying, getting to travel around the world and see old friends and folks that we haven't seen since, prior to the pandemic. But so touring a lot, trying to write when I can. The traveling really takes a lot of the creative juices, especially when you're our age. Steals kind of that stuff from us. But I've got a new, I guess, hunger to write now that it had been pretty dormant there for a while. But I think and one of the good things about the pandemic, if you can say that, was that it gave a lot of us a chance to kind of recharge our batteries and appreciate the life we had prior to it. And just like with the fans going out to the shows, the artists the same way. You don't know what it's like until they take it away from you, and then you appreciate it even more. So yeah, we just get out there and try to tell the fans how much we appreciate them taking care of us for 20 years.
Well, I hope that I get to talk to you a lot more in the future, and maybe every other time we talk, I'll ask you this question that I'm going to ask you for the first time. And it's not
All right.
it's not meant to be a dark question or anything, and it just kind of gives me a gauge of where people's compass is in life, and that is, when you step off the tour bus of life up at the great gig in the sky, to borrow a line from Pink Floyd, how do you hope to be remembered, and what do you hope your legacy is?
Well, I hope to hear those words where they talk about the good and faithful servant. I hope that I want to hear that first, and anything else I won't really care about. But
Be like,
honestly, and someone asked me that question, similar question earlier today, and to be honest, I'm not going to be remembered like a Johnny Cash or Waylon Jennings, or George Jones or something like that. Unless some miracle happens and I have a string of number ones for the next 20 years. But really, my goal is to leave this earth and people look back at me and say, "Man, what a great guy he was. He was friendly. He was genuine.
Mhm.
He genuinely loved his fans. I want my band members to say he's one of the best guys that I ever worked for, and just leave a great impression. I've found, in the years since National Star that, really my whole thing, and God wants me to affect people one on one, whether it's the guy driving the limo or the gal behind the desk at the hotel or whatever, just to be good and genuine and kind to them. And that's all I can hope for. And the biggest thing is I want my family to remember me for being a good dad, a good husband, a good Christian man, and honestly, because I haven't always been that way, and
Mm.
so I want them to remember me that way now, the way I am.
Well, you come across that way, and I think I read people pretty well, and I really like what I feel coming from you, from your
Thank
heart,
you.
and
Thank
it comes across in your music, your performances, and I hope I I hope you come to my neck in the woods. I'm up in the Smokies, so I'm a little east of you, and
Yeah,
but so maybe when you play out this way, or I make it over your direction, you're gigging, we can maybe bump elbows backstage or something. But
absolutely, man. I would love that.
well, thanks for the time. I love your work. I love this new song. Looking forward to the new album when it comes out. Let's do one of these, and we'll catch up on how that all came together for you. Okay.
All right, Randy. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks a lot, and have a good evening. Take care.
All right, brother. God bless, man.